It's not really necessarily just for entrepreneurial women in dentistry. It's for all women, because I know you're spinning quite a few plates, and I think all women do that very gracefully. And so that's what we're doing: highlight and inspire, empower, and connect. So we're just keeping on. I'm still in the profession and I love it. So I had 3 gigs at the same time, but when you're an entrepreneur, you honestly get paid what you're worth. You get to work with who you want to work with. You get to work when you want to work. You can grow it the way you want to grow it. It's your business. It takes a lot of bravery to start something on your own or start something new and leave that paycheck. But I can tell you, at the end of the day, when you've actually been able to be the master of your time and your talent, it's very rewarding.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of 2 hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of 2 hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 249. My name is Andrew.
And this is Michelle, and welcome to our podcast.
Welcome.
Almost 250. Gosh.
Getting there.
It's amazing.
Just another 250 more to go after this, right?
Right? We'll see.
That's a big commitment. That's like 6 years.
That was a big one.
Commitment right there.
Exactly. We'll see. Because I don't know. I don't know if my sanity can tolerate.
Well, here's the thing. I think, so everyone that's returning and everyone that's joining us for the first time, this is a dental podcast, and we're talking about dental stuff. We've been doing it for a long time, apparently. And the thing that keeps us going, though, is truly the fact that we have like a front row seat to all these amazing people that are doing awesome things in dentistry, but also you guys, the listeners. Like, I don't know how to emote through a microphone into your ears how much you mean to us. And I want to start this episode off with reviews, if that's okay, Michelle.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great. Let's do it.
Let's just do this.
As I drink from my A Tale of Two Hygienists coffee mug.
You do that. Oh, that's nice. I wish this was a video podcast sometimes. Actually, I never do actually wish that. Anyways, so I was going
to say, be careful what you wish for, Andrew. I can make that happen.
No. No one wants that. So we have 2 reviews to read, and we apologize that we're a little bit late. This one is coming from September 15th, 5 stars, entitled Great Podcast, from Amanda_Michelle_.
Oh.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
It just says, I highly recommend A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. Great, informative content and advice.
Oh.
So that was really nice. I like the lengthy ones, but I also like the ones that are like so succinct that it's like this, and this. I'm like,
perfect.
That is exactly perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Amanda Michelle, for that one. Our next one comes September 23rd, 2020. Again, 5 star, an eye opener, !
What?
Look at your eyes get open like that.
I know.
This one was given to us by Tooth Sparkler, Tooth SPRKLR, without some of those.
Cute.
Yeah. What a great podcast. The tip-isode on saliva with Brian Novi is a gem. I want to learn more about saliva and caries, especially in children. So excellent feedback, because I think that is something we were talking about just recently, going in that direction in the future. So yeah, we'll have to tell Brian, Dr. Novi, that he has a review.
Yeah, that his information and advice was appreciated by many. I have no doubt. And it was a gem. It really was. And, to kind of ride on that same topic of things that we might do in the future, we want to hear what you guys are wanting for 2021. There's for specific topics, or if we need to go back and like dig deeper into any topics, maybe there's something new that we're not really on like the pulse of at the moment. So maybe tell us about it. We would like to know. I will tell you though, like certain product, like people love to come and be like, oh, we got a new product and it's going to come on. Like, we are obviously an education podcast. Unless you have like a ton of science behind your product that no one's really talking about and it's peer reviewed and good, we're probably not going to be like, yeah, come on. Like, we are not that podcast, obviously.
Right. And I think the same thing goes on for if you are a speaker who's trying to make a name for themselves, but it's on a topic maybe that isn't really what we're looking for. There's a way to kind of get you on the podcast. Of course, we want to try and get as much exposure for everyone that's individualistic, but it really, your speaking topics really have to be CE worthy. Again, going back to the peer reviewed, based in science and evidence and things like that. And the only reason why we're even talking about this is we get several emails every week about, hey, here's a new product and here's a new speaker. And we appreciate those. We really do. So, I mean, don't stop sending them, but we just wanted to tell you, like, we might not be able to have room for everything that comes on. But if you as a listener have a product that you like and you want us to try and maybe do some more research to see if, like, hey, this is something that we are implementing in our office, and I just want to have like some confirmation that it's a good thing, or maybe this is something that you and your doctors are looking at implementing, send them our way. Like, we'd be more than happy to kind of like figure out a way to get that. It might not make it to the audio podcast, but we have plenty of other outlets that we can highlight that product or do some research on that product and give it back to you. So don't not reach out just because we're saying this, but just want to give you guys a heads up.
Yeah. But we really do want to hear what you have to say about what will come in 2021, because we are booked up, and we've been booked up for 2020 for a while.
I would like to ask the listeners this too, is like, if you don't mind emailing Michelle at Tale2Hygienist.com, don't worry about emailing me. And just, and because here's what we've done the last couple of years, we've really tried to focus on a particular topic per month, right? So you guys have had these series with an apostrophe after the S. Maybe, I don't know. Series? I don't know. Anyways, also, if you're good at grammar and want to let me know that, Andrew at Tale2Hygienist.com. Thank you very much. So if you like that we're going through series and you want us to continue that, let us know. If you're like, no, I like the individualistic, like bouncing around different topics all the time, let us know that too. We'd be more than happy to find a perfect balance between the two.
And if you follow us on A Tale of Two Hygienists on Instagram, we have in our link in our bio, the link in the bio is a little form that you can go and fill out if you'd like to do that. And that would be easier. And then we could track all that information. That would be fabulous. So to deviate just slightly, Andrew, I'm curious because, you know, I've been back in clinical for a minute and I've been like practicing in all these different places. And
look at us switching places.
I know, really. I'm not going to the ridiculous amount of hours that you ever put in because my body already hates me with just like 8 to 10 a week. But I am curious what well, I mean, it was a strong 6 months with COVID and everything that I wasn't practicing and seeing patients, but I was with my other practice or my outreach center for like 3 years almost, pretty routinely. So now that I'm kind of hopping around and like seeing things outside of what I had, that was a norm for me, I'm really like, it's just making my mind go, am I the only person that does this? So I'm curious. I might write the most intense notes ever. And I know that you had to write notes because you, with your last company, like there was this almost, I don't want to say proprietary way of like taking and tracking things, but very specific.
I would say it was proprietary. But yeah,
Okay.
No, it is proprietary what they were doing. I mean, it's not like I can't talk about certain parts of it. I mean, obviously I'm not working with them anymore, so I could probably say whatever I want, but I would never do that. But yeah, I mean, I guess as I'm cutting you off, you're asking me about what the note situation looked like.
Well, I know yours were intense, like, not really.
Okay, look, they should have been. I will tell you, everyone, and I am not ashamed of this, but I was the worst note takerer. I am struggling on this episode today.
See, I'm appreciating the flip here. It's usually me.
Yeah, the words that don't work. Okay, so we had a template, right? I think that's pretty standard. EagleSoft and Dentrix, all these things I think have templates that you can use. And so my thing was our template was so very specific. Even on just like the gingival statement, it had 8 or so like inputs. And so I would answer all of the inputs, and I'd be like, everything was completely filled out. But the free cell at the bottom, or the free space at the bottom where you can put very specific notes, I never filled that out. And I was always getting in trouble. And I'm like, well, if you as a company required this, then you should have it in your training materials and all of your other things that say, also, this has to go in the free cell. But there was never any of that in there. And so I was always kind of that person that was kind of getting talked to by people that were kind of my bosses, but not really my bosses, that were like, hey, you should probably do this better. If you wanted to be better, then you got to do this. I'm like, I don't really care and whatever. So I'm not the best person to ask for this, because for me, the template that we had it was plenty good enough.
Well, I'm sure your notes were better than like adult prophy, 4 bite wings, fluoride placed, next visit, 6-month prophy.
Okay, so let's get into this for a quick second then also. Okay, this is probably getting into like that proprietary part, but the way that the software worked, it's a company called Axiom. It's in a lot of dental schools, a lot of hygiene schools. It's customizable, very, very customizable, probably the most customizable software platform out there, which makes it incredibly annoying for clinicians, because if you go into this tab, sometimes you need a signature. And if you go into this tab, you need this. So what we had were like 5 or 6 tabs across the top and then sub tabs below that. And so when we had a tab for oral cancer screening that we checked and updated with the correct date, that said that we looked at it and we evaluated those things all within our form. And so we had all of this data collected anyway. And then further within the chart note area, like right above where you were typing your stuff, it walked out whatever the codes were. So if you had an adult prophy, your 1110, it said you did that. If you had your bite wings, it said that you did that with the date. And so my thing was like, why am I also writing that in the free cell that, by the way, I did an adult prophy, when you could just look right half an inch above it, it says adult prophy was coded out and walked out. So why are we doing this to ourselves and making twice the work? I don't understand that. It's part of the permanent record. It's part of the notes.
I agree. I don't think we should be redundant in our notes. If you coded it out, that's what you did. My point is that it says more in your notes about your oral cancer screening or your findings or the discussion on OHI or how they received, or your perception of how they received a treatment plan, or why you were concerned about the fracture line on number 4 distal, or like whatever. Those are the notes that I put in. And I probably put in like tongue ties and scalloped tongues and discussed night guards, and they felt like this. And I write all of that. I feel like I'm spending so much time doing notes, and then I go back and look at other people's notes, and it's like adult prophy, 4 bite wings, fluoride, light calc lower anterior, and kids are in 6th grade. And I'm like, okay,
right.
This serves me no purpose for the conversation I need to follow up with this patient, or anything that you identified that was outside of light calc. Oh God, that's my least favorite thing to read.
So I'm on the train with you there. So if it was my average patient, nothing significant outside the normal, mine were very basic. I filled out all the stuff, called it good. But the things that you're mentioning though are outside of the normal that do need documentation. So even if it is scalloped tongue, which I know, well, there's actually quite a high number, percentage of our population. So you're going to write that multiple times a day. And so anything that's restorative, let me backtrack a little bit, needs more additional like note taking about. So a hairline fracture on this one thing and this one part that is, we've discussed with patient that this is the best course of action. Patient wanted this, doctor wanted this. This is what's going to happen next. Like all of that needs to be documented, because there's not really a cell or a space to write that in. So stuff during the exam portion, for sure. So sorry, I wasn't trying to mince my words a little bit, but I guess that would be the only caveat where I ended up taking, 2 paragraphs worth of notes for these spectacular, significant findings.
And I guess I'm having a hard time finding some of the conversations that aren't spectacular. Because like I'm recommending people go get a sleep test, talked about how they slept, noting that they had tongue tie, making notes that I talked about some myofunctional therapy exercises, gave them notes on like certain mouth rinses they might want to try based on the pH levels or the triplaque gel like colors that I saw in their mouth, discussing like the very specific products that I showed them with a mirror, and I dispensed the sulca brush for the distal of like number 18. Like like, I am writing all of those things. And then I go back and read these notes. And it's amazing to me.
I would say, though, that what you need to do is it electronic health record that you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to make your own template, though.
And if I'm there routinely, I will.
Yeah, I think that'll help you a lot, speed up that.
In my last office, I did do that. Yes.
Yeah.
And I found I've, just in the last, since I left Perio, which was 5-6 years ago, my whole career up until leaving and going into more of the outreach, restorative, like GP kind of world, I was using Dentrix. And not that we're trying to like talk specific about any of these different companies, but I have a love for Dentrix that I think a lot of people don't. And, me being kind of a software techie junkie, like I knew Dentrix really well 5 years ago. I don't know about now, but I knew it really well. And I had very specific templates for my notes. And they were clickable. So like they would pop up and like, here are my typical findings for some people. And then I could write in a custom note if I wanted to. So it was like OHI disclosed today, blah, blah, blah. Like those were all the things that were going in there and I would just answer. And from a perio charting standpoint, Dentrix, I struggle with EagleSoft from perio charting. I do. But I was just curious if I was the only one out there doing these like intense notes, which makes me very aware now why I'm probably running behind on every single page.
Yep, that would be part of it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And if I do, I will maybe do notes the next patient. Like I have a max of 2 patients I can hold in my head before I start forgetting some of those like little details to add. And so I'll, maybe if I'm running late for the first patient, I won't write the notes, but I'll make sure I get it after the second patient. Then I'm running really late on my third patient. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
So the struggles, yes, of being an overzealous note taker, note writer.
Sounds about right. Sounds about like you.
I just hit my front tooth with my coffee mug and that did not feel good.
Look, this is not a representation of a Tale of Two Hygienist coffee mugs. They do not chip your teeth. It's totally a user error on this particular one. It's
a user error, 100%. That's why I can't talk and try to drink coffee at the same time. So anyway, let's get into this episode. So this month I was trying to really come up with, I guess, feeling of leadership and being an entrepreneur. And that might be something that is happening in a dental office and not necessarily out of the op. But whatever that looks like, just make it yours, right? And it doesn't have to be like you're out of the op now. Well, but you're still in dentistry. And, I'm half out of the op and was out of the op for a minute and went crawling back because I missed it so much. And then there's some people who are really, somebody that comes to mind is Miranda Beeson, who really kind of took a step out of the clinical, but she's still in a dental office and she's using all of her dental knowledge. And then there's the people out there like Jasmine Haley, who will be in this series that has kind of taken a step out of the op completely and is working with businesses and being like a business coach and stuff. So I just wanted to really kind of talk about what that looks like and what maybe you need to do if that's like something that's really kind of pulling at your heartstrings, and that it's going to look very different for everyone. And not everyone is going to need to leave their dental office or leave the op, or maybe we'll find a little combo of it. Because I think we can be real entrepreneurs in our office, and we just have to get creative with it and kind of, figure out how we navigate that. And I'm not the person that you need to learn that from, because I've done it in a very messy way.
But that's why we're having these guests this month.
Exactly. And so this first one, we started off with Duffy. I'm super excited to have her on. She actually has created a magazine, which is kind of all around the entrepreneurship of just people in dentistry, and then also specifically women in dentistry, which I think is fabulous. Not to silo us women. I mean, we want the guy hygienist of the world to be listening to this too. But I do hope you enjoyed the series, and I'm super excited to kick it off with Duffy.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
So, welcome to the interview portion of the podcast. I am very excited for this series, and we're kicking it off with the one and only Ann Duffy. How are you, Ann?
I am doing great, Michelle. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And I'm just so happy that I finally have met you. Well, it's been over a year now. Actually, RDH has that was last August or something. And that's when we finally met in person.
Well, we finally met in person, but that's because I crashed on in your hotel room because you took me in off the street. So I'm always going to be indebted to you. And it was the most fun that I ever had, and a good example of women helping women, right?
It was. And I mean, what a good example of even though maybe you don't know somebody, like, because we had just met on social media and it turned out to be so fantastic. I loved meeting you. I loved getting to know you more. And it's so crazy too how like small our industry is, but also like how we hadn't met yet.
I know. We found out, I mean, one of our dearest friends we had in common. So kudos to Tony Stefanu for connecting us. And I remember when he and I were talking one time, he goes, "Oh, you've got to meet Michelle Strange." And I'm like, "I got to meet her." And here we were, together.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what great adventures you have in the dental world.
Well, I love that you say, "What am I doing?" Because my new baby, I conceived the DeW.Life baby 4 years ago. Let's back up a bit because this is about entrepreneurism in dentistry. Do you want me to start there or just tell you what I'm doing right now?
Well, no, let's talk about your journey in dentistry.
Well, it is quite a journey when I think back on it because I have been practicing 46 years, Michelle. I still am in the op half a day a week. I'm a dental hygienist, and I love this profession. It's interesting because I have 6 state boards under my belt, right? So I married my college sweetheart. We moved all over the country. I took 6 state boards and continued to practice, however I could, 1 or 2 days in each state or whatever, because raising the kids and moving around took some time, but landed in Charlotte and decided to take the board again. It was a 2-day test at Chapel Hill. And in that process, I met someone that was starting a networking company, that was in a networking company. And it was Tony, actually, that sold toothpaste and mouth rinse. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do that instead of get back in the op. And it just turned out to be a networking company. And I wasn't interested in anything like that. Took the board, started working. And then realized the products might help one of my patients who was the president of the Sjogren's support group in Charlotte. And this was an alcohol-free rinse. And so I looked into that, fell in love with the products, chlorine dioxide based. So, I know that you like Closis, and I love the what that does for the mouth periodontally and for fresh breath. Somewhere in that journey, my husband came home one day and he said he was going to quit his corporate job and start his own business. And I'm like, well, gee, that's a great idea because we'll be millionaires right away because you're so smart. And, it's so easy to build something from nothing, right? Just it's from scratch. And, we were really like about a year in, we were like sucking wind going through all of our 401ks and everything is like just to stay alive. And so I started to look at the business of building a team. And in this situation, it was a team of, leaders and direct sales. It's all about personal growth in those companies, which I didn't know, right? Because I'd never been in that. The only reason I was attracted to it was because it was toothpaste and mouth rinse. So I have this, love for dentistry. I mean, it was my education, right? So I loved it. I built the biggest team probably of female dental professionals in the company. And through that process at a trade show, and you've been at your trade shows, right? We've all been there. We love them. I met a gentleman that was starting Dental Entrepreneur, and he saw something in me that he said, "Oh, would you come on board and help me launch this and sell advertising?" And so it was a free ticket to San Francisco for the ADA that year. This is 20 some years ago. So I said yes, and I took that on, and we were very successful. He was a journalist, had no love or passion for dentistry. So I bought it from him, and I've owned it for like 17 years, and we're still, going to all the dental schools in the country. I have a love for the young dentist and They don't get any business in dental school. And it's not the school's fault, really. They just don't have time to teach them all the clinical. You probably know this even from being in your years of teaching in dental hygiene. There's a lot of curriculum that they need to get through. So
such little time.
Such little time. So that's about it. And then, something happened at Aaron Brokovich moment, knowing all these women in dentistry. And I thought they're just not getting their due. And pun intended, I started DeW magazine. So we are doing it. And it's Dental Entrepreneur Woman. It's a sister pub. It's not really necessarily just for entrepreneurial women in dentistry. It's for all women, because I know you're spinning quite a few plates. And I think all women do that very gracefully. And so that's what we're doing: highlight and inspire, empower, and connect. So we're just keeping on. I'm still in the profession and I love it.
Oh, that's so great. I think half a day of clinical hygiene is perfect.
It really is. I didn't go back until just a couple of weeks ago. And I found, honestly, Michelle, I missed it so bad. I loved seeing the patients that were waiting for my hands that are
It's so true. You miss it. I just went back a few weeks as well, and I'm one full day, and I keep joking that it's kicking my butt. But I think for me, it's the emotional drain. I think it's so interesting that we went from the 6 months since, probably because I hadn't seen a patient since February because of the pandemic and quarantine. And so now that we're having this, and I don't really get out of my house because I am holding true to social distancing. So the people I'm interacting with are few and far between physically. Tons of digital interaction, of course, every second I can, I'm digitally interacting with people, but you don't get that same energy exchange. And I think that's what's draining me.
I think you're right. I feel like it's really starting to catch up with people, I think. I mean, we all have our circle of the people that we're social distancing with, or I like to say physically distancing with. But when you get to see your patients, and I don't know how you felt, I felt extremely safe. I really was, I was particularly covered up, and not much more than what I usually am. I think that we've done such a good job in dentistry of always being cognizant of the sanitation, the OSHA, all of those things to keep our patients and ourselves protected. So I was surprised that I wasn't drained from that, but I know there's a big difference between one full day and a half day. I'm so energized, Michelle, after the half day. Everyone's having lunch and I'm like, I'll see you ladies next week.
See you later.
And then when I do a whole day, I get to my car and I feel like I'm crawling into the house, So I don't know. There's something about that. That 5 hours a day it's good. It's a good marker for
it is. It is. And this whole series is about being an entrepreneur, being a leader, making some changes. And that doesn't always mean that you have to leave the op to do that. So I was just curious if you have any tips, any advice, any guidance of any kind. What does that even, when I say that to you, because I think sometimes people are like, I don't even understand what you say. Whereas I'm like, not somebody that ever thought I was an entrepreneur, but I have ideas for days. I'm like, well, we could be doing this. We could be doing that. We could start doing this. And I almost overwhelm people sometimes. So I'm curious, what is that? When I say something like that to you, what does that mean? How does that land with you?
Well, I think that it's important to stay in the op and pick up a side gig. So I would never recommend anybody quit their day job to go straight into entrepreneurism. And my husband did that. And he's doing fine now. But, that was a big daunting. And so I think in the dental arena, there's so many opportunities for us to dip our toe in the water. And I think it's really difficult when you're working full time. But sometimes you have to do that. It depends on how big your bills are, what your other, what else you have to.
Responsibilities.
Responsibilities.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Responsibilities are. So I was fortunate to be able to do 2 days of hygiene, work the OxyFresh business. So I said yes to that and do the magazine. So I had 3 gigs at the same time. But when you're an entrepreneur, you honestly get paid what you're worth. You get to work with who you want to work with. You get to work when you want to work. You can grow it the way you want to grow it. It's your business. And so those are things that I look back on the 20 years I've been an entrepreneur, 25 years, I guess. I wouldn't give that up for anything. In fact, it's interesting because I think our kids growing up, they knew I was a dental hygienist. I don't think they even realized that mom was working. I mean, they knew dad was working, right? But they didn't really think, oh, she seems so free. She can take us here and there. And that's such a gift of being an entrepreneur because you have your own hours. You set your own hours. It's okay. And, it's interesting because people are feeling that now working at home. People are getting a taste of what entrepreneurism is about because we usually start off working in our home office and building it from there. And I've got to say, I started DeW because one of the reasons is because I didn't want all these amazing, fabulous women to leave the profession. Let's try to figure out how we can come together to stay in the profession. And at the end of your 46 years in the profession, you can look back and say, that was a great run. That was fulfilling. I was my own resource and gathering people with me. I get to make those decisions. And I think once you start making your decisions, and you know this from your podcasting, because you decide who you're going to podcast, who you want to work with, all the different avenues. And I want to hear more about what you're doing also, because I know that you're doing more than, and I won't say just, because that is not
just, yeah.
You're using your strengths, right? You're using everything you have. And it feels so good to be using it for yourself in some capacity as well, especially in hygiene. And this is a tale of two hygienists. So I think if you're a really good hygienist, you're going to take ownership of the practice. I mean, my bosses, I was like, I take ownership with this practice. They don't necessarily want me to take ownership with the practice, but that's how I work. I would take ownership with anything that I'm doing. And if you have that in your heart, you're destined. You need to go look out and do something really for yourself, to take ownership of your own life, because it's just so rewarding and fulfilling.
Oh, it's so true. And I think a lot of people do take ownership. And one of the things that Tony brought up, we've mentioned Tony multiple times, but he always said he thought that hygienists should have kind of shares in the practice to take true ownership over the practice, because then you could, I don't know, you just feel like you have more stake in what happens. And it's not just clock in, clock out, get the bonus, go on about your day. Because I think ultimately, yes, it is a profession and a career that allows you to have a lot of flexibility and be a little bit more fluid when you are a mom or you have multiple jobs or you want to do other things. It does allow for that, which is fantastic. However, as I mentioned earlier, we have that energy exchange with patients. We take ownership and we want to see them be healthy and succeed. And we create these like amazing relationships with our patients. And so we see the value of being a part of that practice and being seen as true caregivers and clinicians and ultimately moneymakers for the practice.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we do want that ownership, but I jokingly say all the time, and I do joke, but I'm not really joking. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like that was never on my radar. And the big joke is like, I want ownership of things, but I want that steady paycheck and I don't want you to tell me what to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's like, we just want it all. And I think that I love that you said that, because I think that I really feel if dentists were really smart, they would give shares, and it would make me feel 100% better about my career back in the day, because, and into this day, honestly, because when I leave this practice, in fact, my boss has said, like, I brought 40% of the production into the practice because all my friends go there. He's an excellent dentist, but I will say, and this is why it's hard to recommend women to go into dentistry as a dental hygienist the way it's structured now. Honestly, I don't think I've ever had a raise that I didn't go in and just say, hey, listen, I think I need a raise, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like I almost have to demand it. And I am working because I love dentistry and I love patients, but really we should be paid for what we're worth and what we're bringing to the practice. And if you knew that, I mean, I guess I'm going to do it anyway, Michelle, but I feel like that holds women down because, when you think of hygiene, dental hygiene, it is a predominantly female oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than your wonderful sidekick.
Yeah.
So like we love our dudes, but it's really hard to be in a practice that you're not feeling you're getting paid what you're worth or being appreciated. I hear that so much. And I think we are making money. We are helping the treatment planning. We are building that practice. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it takes the whole team. There's just something that's been missing, I think, on our career track. And I think it's hopefully could change. There's some hygienists I know that are starting up their own hygiene, businesses and in certain states. I'm in North Carolina. We can't do anything in North Carolina. But I think that might be a trend in the future. And I know the teledentistry and the mobile dentistry is something that's coming on for women that are entrepreneurs.
Well, you also make a good point when you're saying like we have to go in there and almost demand it. However, I think if we don't have the leadership skills and the business understanding, it's hard to go in there and I say this as someone who had no understanding of the business side, had to be told, after I've been in it like 5-7 years that, I am making the 33% of what I bring in, but also going, well, how the hell am I supposed to bring in more? And I work for a specialist. So that was very based upon like how many new patients were coming in. And if this particular doctor was out there hustling with the community. And so I felt like my hands were tied in a lot of ways. And also her behavior sometimes ran out people like straight out the door. So I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to like bring in more money when I try to, give a treatment plan and you overwhelm them and they never come back? Like so you feel like your hands are a little tied, but looking back on that, I'm like, okay, now with the tools that I have in my armamentarium of things that I could be doing. Right. I could be, doing some oral health coaching. Like, could I bring people in specifically on certain days when the office isn't open because I don't need the dentist, because they've already done their exam or whatever. And I can do oral health coaching for those people who are really wanting to make a change and not get surgery, or really tired of having a cavity every time they come in, or myofunctional therapy, or integrating teledentistry, especially from a referring practice standpoint. I mean, there's just going into the nursing homes on the days off. And, I work for a lot of practices that had a lot of elderly patients, which is 100% my niche that was my demographic for patients. I loved my elderly people, but a lot of times, they'd fall and be in a rehab center for like 6 to 9 months because they had, double hip replacement and broke their shoulder, or they just physically couldn't get back into the practice. And like, now I look back, I'm like, gosh, I have so many things. I have silver diamine fluoride, and I have teledentistry, and I have all these mobile prophy thing. There's so much I could do. And even just from an equipment standpoint, not to like go on this tangent here, but biofilm management, like, could I go out there and purchase my own? Personally, I use the EMS like airflow unit or an endoscope, and really take up and up on a day that it's not being used, and be the hygienist in the community that people refer like super tough cases to, or I don't know, like I could go on for days for ideas, but no one ever taught me that. No one had that conversation with me. And like I said, I had to learn the hard way that I was even working so within my 30%, or I had capped out essentially. The office wasn't raising fees. So like, again, how do I create more so I can make more? And then also just like, there are so many opportunities to bring more money to the practice that isn't putting my hand in someone's mouth.
Yeah. You brought up so many good ideas there. And I actually forgot this part of my story. I actually started a fresh breath center. So when I got fresh, I had my own fresh breath center in the practice. There was a couple of ops that were in the back that they weren't using, and my boss let me set it up. I had my own patients, my own clientele. I had a helimeter and a periotep. I totally forgot about this. And I charged $99 for the assessment. And then, basically they had to get on the chlorine dioxide products and, make sure that, because people still don't understand that some of that is just body chemistry, and, you've got to have a healthy mouth, certainly. But that was a profit center, and that was an entrepreneurial. I must have that in me anyway, but I had to make more money. So you've got to have a reason for it. So I think a lot of us get a little lackadaisical of like clocking in and clocking out. And that's not good for the profession. And I don't think that is how most hygienists feel, because you and I know we meet hygienists all the time. They are smart. They are driven. They're talented. Every hygienist pretty much I know is doing more than one thing, right? I mean, they really are. They just have an incredible stamina for the work ethic and helping people. So everything you mentioned would be beautiful. I mean, could you do that? I mean, wonder if the state board would come down on us for looking at those opportunities. We need to come together on that.
Well, it probably depends on the state that you're in, but even from I don't know if there's any state practice acts that prevent me from owning equipment. Like, could I purchase my own endoscope? And we know so many hygienists out there that have done it. Like I know Nicole Fortune up in Northeast. I'm not sure what state now.
Okay.
We definitely have had people in our industry that have purchased it. Susan Newkirk, I think I'm blanking on her name, but she did the same where she like bought an endoscope and like took it from practice to practice and saw people's patients for them. I'm sure there's a lot of little things that you have to get into place, confirming you have your malpractice insurance, confirming that your state practice act allows all of that. But I think if you could kind of start thinking outside of the box and truly get to a point where like, what do you like doing in the op? Like I loved, like I said, the elderly population, and I love preventative. So like, how can I combine those two things? And for me, it's like, well, maybe I take this show on the road and go to the nursing facilities or go to these rehab centers and really integrate. And I think it's going to be probably difficult in some areas. Like I'm even having a hard time trying to find people who are going to do tongue tie releases on adults here in Charleston. Like, because I think from a myofunctional standpoint, like, because I have taken the courses, I just haven't practiced it like solely outside of just annoying my patients in my chair and my friends. That's about the extent of it. But like, if I really thought about it, like, oh my gosh, like my office is closed on Fridays. I'm seeing tongue tie after scallop tongue after airway issue. Could I find somebody that could clip those tongue ties? Could I be doing this rehab stuff with these patients? Like there are just so many opportunities.
Yes, there
go back to the Practice Act for sure.
Well, there are. And I mean, I think that we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, because there are some women that are going in front of us. Cheryl Schaefer comes to mind, Susan Cotton, those gals, but the myofunctional therapy. So their business is really booming. And, that they're in their town, so to speak, because you have to have the referrals. So you've got to build that network. It does go back to ask yourself, what do you really love? And then focus on that and try to figure out how to build a business and around it. And you can start slowly on Fridays. You can be because I really feel like even with my entrepreneurial businesses, I am more successful because I've been in the trenches still and remain in the trenches. So I think it's important. I always tell women that want to do that, like, keep your day job, as long as you can, because it gives you the real world of practicing and seeing a lot of different people. And every time you see a different person, just doing that one day, you get ideas all day long. It's like the one thing. Day. It's just really cool to meet all these people that have done all these things. And, your mind is like blown half the time by the end of the day, probably because your ideas are so many when you get out of the office. But, I think it's important to reach out to women that are doing those things. In fact, we've got a great article that's coming in to the fall edition, the autumn edition. It's Lauren, I'm not going to say her name right, Getz, Guietus. And it's about leaving a corporate job. She's a hygienist, and then she started her own business. And she's got a checklist of 12 things that you need to put in place when you're going to start your own entrepreneurial venture, your own business. So that's going to be very helpful. But
that's great.
I think there's so many things that we can do, because I feel like we've been held back from broadening what dental hygiene means. This maybe is a good start. I'm glad you're having this podcast, Michelle, because you're getting me thinking. I hope that the women and men that are listening to this will realize that they can take their education, they can take their experience in the op, And they can really look at how to broaden that, how to bring their care to other people that aren't getting it, which is all about the mobile dentistry and taking it to the, Angie Stone. I mean, so many women are starting this and trying to get some traction, but the business is there. We just have to, like, I was looking at something like 90% of female entrepreneurs don't make six figures. And that Jasmine Haley just put that up. And I love Jasmine. She's coaching business. And only 2% of female entrepreneurs make it to seven figures. So that's just like, come on, we've got to do better than that. We can do better than that. But you've got to take that leap and you've got to work on yourself.
Oh, I think that's a great point. Like, you do have to do the work on yourself. And, maybe this moment in your life isn't the exact moment that you need to step out on that ledge. Maybe you got a kid that's about to turn 18 and getting the heck out of the house, and then it's probably time. I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's a specific moment where you're just like, I can't. And that's fine. But I also want to highlight too that, like, the grass isn't always greener on the outside of the op. And, not like totally leaving the op and totally leaving dentistry because people are getting so burned out. And I used to get really frustrated with people being like, yeah, leave, go do medical coding, go be a nurse, go do real estate. And all of those are fine and wonderful. But if you think that the grass is going to be greener out there, it's not always. And if you truly were in this industry because you loved it and you loved that patient care and you loved the science behind our industry and you saw that we could make a change in people or for people, I think your knowledge is so valuable. And if you're burned out from like scalar to tooth, there are so many other ways for you to use that. Amazing experience and knowledge that you have. And you just have to kind of go, like, take a step back from that burnout and that frustration, which I totally understand is hard to do when you're in the thick of it. But my gosh, like, how much information that you have about dentistry and patient care, and then just to kind of like drop it and go do, I don't know, and on low hanging fruit, like real estate, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, maybe that is going to light you up and you need something completely different. And I don't mean to like say anything negative about that, but I just want people to realize that sometimes when you leave clinical, it's not always better. And I definitely left it for a year and I was like, JK, can I come back? I miss it.
Yeah, well, the people don't realize that everything that you build is hard to do. And if it was easy and simple, everybody would be doing it. So it takes a lot of bravery to start something on your own or start something new and leave that paycheck. But I can tell you at the end of the day, when you've actually been able to be the master of your time and your talent, it's very rewarding. I don't want dentists to think that we don't appreciate what they're doing. I have a newfound appreciation for the dentist, talking to all these female dentists, especially in DeW, through the magazine and the movement, because we don't understand everything they're going through and the hiring process and the bills and all the different minutia that's behind the scene that they have to pay for. So, sometimes I think that's good for them to share a little bit of that with us so that we don't think that there's all this money that they're getting and we're not getting anything. It's just something about being a leader that actually has everyone working with you and for you, feeling part of something that you believe in and you're doing. And I think so often the burnout comes from, I'm not being appreciated. I'm not part of this. It doesn't matter how much I work, how hard I work, how perfect my prophies are, because, every recare appointment that we make has got to be perfect because that's part of who we are, right, in this profession. And it goes a lot to just being appreciated and just being part of the business of dentistry. You want to bring people in on that. And I think the leaders that I've seen in dentistry that are successful and have had long-term team members and that adore who they're working for and adore their patients and can look back on their life and say, that was wonderful. They are true leaders. Something that just, again, I just beat the bushes with these young docs coming out of dental school. There's so many little things that they can do to have a great career and have the people that work for them have a great career. That's the thing. What is it? If you want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, bring others with you. And the African proverb. But I mean, it is so true even in the dental arena. And sometimes it's going to take the team member to make the leader a better leader by bringing things to them. And, I think sometimes that's our job as well, because again, I feel like dental hygienists are leaders already. We kind of grew up that way, or we wouldn't be in dental hygiene. Having the responsibility of taking care of our patients lies on our shoulders.
I like that. And to just pivot off of that quote, as far as like taking others with you, tell me how you feel about networking and how valuable that is if you're choosing to be a leader in your practice in some way or an entrepreneur.
It's literally everything. I was really disappointed in myself. I had other things going. I did all the OxyFresh stuff, and that was all leadership and development. And that's why I wanted to bring that to dentistry. So somebody said to me recently, your retreat is not giving CEs. And I'm like, well, that's not my lane. There's enough CE. Everyone's giving CEs, and that's their lane. They're doing a beautiful job. So I don't need to jump there. I wanted to jump into leadership development and personal development. That is the beauty and why I want to connect all women, because once you start talking to everybody, like your ideas that you just had, once you start networking with the women that are like already kind of doing it, and you guys get together and connect, and you do this all the time on your podcast, Michelle, you're a fabulous networker because you have a new awesome person on all the time and you learn from them, right? So I think that is so important. And I mean, speaking from women, especially, I really want women to be able to want to help each other. There's no scarcity mentality for successful leaders. Successful leaders are people that want to learn from others. They're humble. They, love mentoring. And also I am mentored by young women like you in the profession. So it doesn't matter about age. It's just the amazing connection. And the reason we know each other is through a connection from Tony. So, and then I've met so many women because of you. And I think if we all continue to get together like that in a loving abundance mindset, we're going to make this profession way better than where it is when I'm leaving it. Because to another one of your points, I'll pivot off that, is timing is everything. So you can have this opportunity in front of you for a couple of years before you actually take it. I think a lot of women kind of look back and go, I wish I would have done a long time ago. No, timing is always perfect when you make that decision. And you can dip your toe in and you can come back. And then you can, that's the beautiful part of our profession, is you can quit your full-time job because you're burnt out or you want to try something new. And you can always pick up a couple days here and a couple days there, or you can temp. There's so many different things, but I just really want to change dental hygiene going forward in the fact that you can have some of those opportunities that you just that just popped out of your head. You listed 6 of them right there that are on their own standalone businesses, Michelle, that if you were really passionate about that segment, then go for it. And it's not that hard to start small and grow, but you have to, again, know what you're good at. You have to be able to hire people when you get to a certain point that will do the things that I don't want to do, because I don't want to do things that I'm not good at. That's why I have a virtual assistant now that's helping me with a lot of the minutia, the technical stuff. You're more and I know you're pretty technical, but I need help with that. And I need all sorts of things. So you don't have to wear all the hats when you start your own business. Yeah. I was 42 when I even knew that I could even do anything other than dental hygiene. It never even occurred to me to go out on my own. I only did it because I was like basically forced to. And I do believe that helps everybody when you want to quit. I couldn't quit. I had 3 kids. I wanted to keep them in the schools they were in. I had to pay my mortgage. I mean, people think, oh, no, I was desperate. I mean, I really needed the money. I needed to do something. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to do full-time hygiene because I had to schlep kids around. I had a lot of things that were important. And I just didn't have the time for that. So I had to figure something else out. And I think women are very creative. You have to listen to that little person in your head and saying you can do it. And then when you want to stop or you want to quit, you've got to call somebody. And that's where the networking comes into. I'm like, who do you call? I mean, you call in Emily Bogey, or you call it, I mean, there's a million wonderful women in our profession. And I wanted to say this because I got off track. I didn't go to Under One Roof I went to Under One Roof for the first time when I met you and stayed in your room. And so I just thought, where has this been all my life? It was such an uplifting meeting. And I know that there's meetings out there. So I believe in organized dentistry also. If people want to say, what is one of your things that you believe in? I really believe in meetings and getting together. And if it weren't for going to that meeting in person, I wouldn't be so comfortable Zooming with you and all the women that I met in that meeting. So, when things open up again, you got to go in person. But right now we're doing Zoom and it's working. It's okay. It's going to be okay. We're definitely getting back to being roommates again sometime.
Yes, we definitely will. And right now in this time of the pandemic, so I did my first virtual conference for OSAP, and they had a virtual exhibit hall and virtual happy hours and stuff. And I made sure to attend all of them. And even from an entrepreneur standpoint of maybe you are going to get out of the op and you want to work with certain companies and you want to do sales and you want to do marketing. Let me give you some of my jobs that I get offered, because once people know, you know how to do social media, you understand marketing, you understand the business side of it. You've taken the classes, you've taken some courses, and these things are free everywhere, y'all. Once they know that, they're like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth for any more. There are so many opportunities, but I put myself out there and would discuss my favorite things about certain products. Tepe being such a low-hanging fruit, I put myself in that position and they created that job for me, which is just unheard of in my world. Now it happens, I think, frequently, but I love their product. I talked about it all day, every day with my patients. I sent in my resume. I sent in questions. Anytime I saw them at a booth, I said something to them. And then all of a sudden, I'm lead educator for all of North America. It's just amazing, but you have to put yourself there. And if it doesn't come organically, maybe it's just not the right one. Or maybe you're going to have to, I didn't just do it one time. I was like, hey, y'all remember me? Hey, remember me? Still love your products. Still talking about them. You want to talk to me? Because I talk about you.
Yeah, you got to keep knocking on those doors, and you got to say yes when the opportunity is presented, even if you don't feel like you're that well versed in it. I mean, obviously, when you get offered something, if the timing is right and they see something in you, it was just like for me going to sell. I never sold anything in my life, and here I am selling advertising for a magazine. I think that's one thing we need to do more often is say, yes, try it out, see if it works. And you don't have anything to lose. But something else that I really would love to see happen is I would love to see women especially be able to think more worthy of getting a higher pay. Because I think we accept less. And I mean, the stats are staggering that, that men make, women make only 79 cents on the dollar for men. And I think it's sometimes because we don't think of ourselves as being worthy of it, or we need to kind of band together on that. I also want to see, when you have your own business, I would love to see all of us that are starting these entrepreneurial ventures, Michelle, to build something that we can sell to someone else that will carry on the legacy. Because starting from scratch, as you know, is not easy. Starting from scratch. But how about bringing somebody else along with us and saying, hey, listen, let's mentor each other and then possibly take it over at some point. Because I believe that men do that more frequently than women do. We just tend to kind of let things kind of dwindle out. We're going to quit. We're going to be just working for another year or so. So I'll just keep my clients, and then I'll give a client here and a client there or whatever, versus ramping it up, pedal to the metal, build something so someone else sees something in it and they want to take it on. And that's going to be important for all of us entrepreneurial women, because when you're an entrepreneur, you put a lot of your time and effort into your business. So sometimes you have to be smart about what you're taking out as you're putting it in, because at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen. We might be the sole earner and we might have to live till we're 100. I mean, if we have good oral hygiene, I mean, we could live to be 100, Michelle, that's
Could be.
so we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. And I also think it's something that we need to teach. I'm excited about one of the things in the retreat. We've got a business track at the end of the retreat on how to get more customers that you love. And it was just simply, I wanted a big takeaway from all of us, for all of us, because all entrepreneurial women and men need customers, because entrepreneur is all about selling. Even if you're not the sales force, it's about selling, recommending, however you want to phrase it, what you have to offer. The women in dentistry can't do any selling or recommending unless they totally believe in it. And that's where it starts. To your point about Teppy, you couldn't recommend that if you didn't believe wholeheartedly in that.
No. And that's also what gets me in trouble on this podcast sometimes. I'm like, I'm not talking about them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
That's not my company. I don't like their stuff. I'm not talking about that. Which Andrew, it's probably sends him up the wall. But, I'm only one hygienist, so that might work for some others. So I should probably be a little more open on some of those things. But ultimately, if I'm not using it on patients and I've read the research, then no, thank you.
But that's what you stand for. And that's why people love you and people listen to you, because they know that you're no BS. If you're talking about it, it's something that you have good thoughts about. And I mean, that to me, that's your personality and that's your chi. And you just got to hang on to that, because that's who you are. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks. Some days it's good. Some days it's bad.
Yeah,
some days it bites me in the butt. But I would love to also just talk about, like, in the last 6 years of being out of the op and being an entrepreneur and trying to get back in and create these other businesses on myself and with Andrew and with other partners, I've definitely learned skills after the fact and floundered a lot of times and learned those hard lessons when maybe I could have done a little more investigating or upfront work. Not necessarily saying that you have to go get like a degree in anything, even though I do believe in higher education. I don't think it's always necessary. I've seen amazing people do incredible things with, and I'm going to say like a quote unquote only an associate's degree, because that seemed to people look down on just an associate's degree. But I think that there are plenty of courses and plenty of classes and plenty of self-work that you can do to kind of build that foundation that will prepare you for being an entrepreneur or being a leader just in your practice. And, not to digress from this question, because I do want to get to that point, but, I don't think also that you have to be in it to be an entrepreneur. Like, you could just be a leader that creates something in your practice that is kind of the legacy that will be left in that practice. Maybe it's better infection control and prevention. Maybe it's integrating a better software and, moving paper charts to digital charts and just beefing up the technology or the social media accounts and things like that for your practice. There's so much you guys could be doing. Again, if y'all need ideas, I got them for days apparently. But to go back to my question, like, what do you suggest? Are there, I mean, obviously you have a retreat coming up, you have the magazine, but are there courses? Is there people they should subscribe to, or podcasts they should listen to, or personality tests they should take? Anything that could help get them kind of moving in that right direction?
Well, there's a lot. Okay. So, I mean, I think that COVID has shown all of us that we can learn virtually, right? And so that to me is like, and to your point about just an associate's degree, well, if you want to get an education, everything you want to get is online, and it depends on where your motivation is to learn new things. I love Strength Finder. So that is what, that changed my life about 10 years ago and in my family's life. And so when I realized that I had the 5 top strengths, which I focused on, and I read what they meant, I knew that I should be an editor and publisher of a magazine and a founder of a movement and, speaker and all of that. That just lines up with my strengths. So I think knowing and that gives me fuel, Michelle, when I'm tired and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or if I want to quit, because what you have to realize, and I think that we all do, if you're a true entrepreneur, you've been in this for any length of time, it's a roller coaster. So it is not for the faint of heart. I mean, some months are great, and some months COVID has shown us that they're down, and it's just a frickin' roller coaster. But at the end of the day, it's exciting. And I have a couple of things. I think that, there's so many, like your podcast. I mean, you're going to get all the clinical. And I think now I love that you're delving into the business side also, because, you've got such a fan following. But, connecting with with women. And that's the other thing about I love that I can connect women with each other that are having kind of the same thoughts. Well, let's connect because we're so much stronger together. So there's that mastermind groups. Join a mastermind group that, fits your fancy. Go outside of dentistry for some of the business. I mean, I'm in a couple of other groups that just don't talk about dentistry, but they talk about the business. Find your mentors, follow people. I mean, that's this beautiful thing with social media. You can follow people that are doing things like that, on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. Everything you want is really there. I think there's just the principles of being humble enough to accept that we don't know everything, and finding people that are smarter than we are to help us figure it out. That's the key. And again, growing yourself. So I feel like I got to a certain point. I actually know what my calling is also. So I did some work on that. And so again, that's when I get up in the morning and I know what I need to do to use the gifts I have. And until something else comes along, I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'm not going to quit because you're not going to retire. I'm not going to retire. If you're a true entrepreneurial person, we really don't retire. We just are always going to be, you're going to be in the nursing home. That was my joke the other day. I said, you'll be in the nursing home when you're 99 years old and somebody will have a question about teeth and you'll be, I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Let me with that. Right. But I do think there's that you got to work on your leadership. I mean, that's just, every once in a while, you've got to take some time for yourself. And that's what I'm hoping with our retreat, Michelle, that women will carve out those 2 days just for them, just to learn, again, more about themselves through the strengths, the personal development they're offering. And I'm a personal development junkie, so I love that stuff. I would really like to live this life so that I didn't leave anything behind. And I might get bored easily. That might be why I'm always doing something. There's some traits in an entrepreneur that you'll have that kind of line up with that kind of business. It's not necessarily secure, the big security blanket that you have, but it just feeds the soul for really reaching your true potential.
Absolutely. And man, if COVID taught me anything, it was that W-2 is not all that, because very much if I was only a W-2 employee, I would have lost my job. I would have been on unemployment. And being an entrepreneur and a business owner, I was able to actually pivot. And I personally have a coach, a business coach, a life coach, and that is huge for me. That's somebody that keeps me on task and helps me really kind of work out all the details and find that way to accomplish the goals that I have. But one of the things that she and I were working on was like, I have always felt this insecurity for a financial insecurity around being a business owner, because it's a little scary. Like with W-2, I get paid on first and the 15th. There it is. Like, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And COVID's really kind of solidified her point that she would always tell me, is that you could lose your job tomorrow. There is no guarantee. And if you do work for yourself or you create it, it's completely in your control to pivot and make the decisions and make the changes, because you don't have to lie down and take it, like you can't. Now, some days it's not always great. And sometimes you're just like, oh, well, look at that. I'm going to have to come up with how much money to pay the bills.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so many days I'm like, why don't I just go back to just clock it in?
Yeah.
And clock it out? Because I know how much you're going to make at the end of the month. And yeah, all those things. But you said something that's so important. I think I would be a lot further along. I just started with a coach or two. And I've had coaches, but I've never paid for a coach to speak of. I've got friends that I'll talk to and mentoring and things like that. And I've taken a lot of business study through, the 20 years I was in OxyFresh was all how to run a business. But I think getting a coach or two coaches or three coaches is where the success really comes, because they don't have the attachment that you have to our scarcity. Like,
Yeah.
am I charging too much? I don't know if I want to charge so much. Like, I was on the phone with Victoria Peterson the other day. She's like, Ann, you've got to value what you have. And she was just going on. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
I hear you.
like, I just want to give it all away. I just want everybody to be happy. I think that runs through a lot of our hearts. I think we're kind of built that way. I saw a little thing on Sally Krawcheck, who was, she was the top of the top in the financial centers for wealth management. And I think she was with Wells Fargo or, one of the big banks. And now she's doing something for just women. And there's a thread that runs through our psyche. And that is, we just want to love on people and give it all away. And you know what? You deserve, and I deserve, to be paid what we're worth. We should be, as hard as you work and as hard as I work, I mean, you know what? We just got to quit doing that. Devalue what we have and stand up for it. There's a lot there that we can learn.
That's a good point.
We just got to share it with others too. I mean, I think that's the thing too, and support each other in what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ask for support. I think so often we think we can just do it all on our own. Asking people for help.
And asking them in a way, sometimes I've been around some moments when it is like, hey, can you give me your PowerPoint so I can go do that presentation? And like, okay, all right. We're going to have to work about being strategic about how you start interacting with people and how you truly network. And there's courses, there's all kinds of stuff out there if you need to learn how to do that. Because I will tell you, you will turn people off. It would... if you are doing it as a give me, I want to learn from you so I can be better, and you're not really kind of cultivating that relationship so that it is not that mentors need to have the benefit of you that, but like, I'm not there to also bleed my content for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is so not doish, right? That's what I said. There's a couple of things that are not doish. That just doesn't work. I mean, golly, I've heard that from a couple of people. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and I think it takes some guts and some strength to let them know that that's not cool. Let people know what you'll take and what you won't take, and what works for you. We have to ask for that for ourselves as well. And that's sometimes that's when we need a friend, a coach, or another DeW to say, hey, listen, you're worth it. Let them build their own content because you worked hours and hours and hours. And it's so funny because it looks like it's so easy for you, Michelle, because you are so bright and smart and just seems so, just flows right off. So why wouldn't you? No, this is your business. I always go back to, I love Roger Levin. He writes for me for Dental Entrepreneur all the time. I mean, the guy has built this huge business. He's not going to give his stuff away. I don't think but why do we do that? And you feel guilty when you don't. Okay. I hope she still likes me when I just said, no, you're not going to get it, and doesn't spread rumors around that I'm just such a, hard to get along with. There's a lot there.
That gets a little crazy too. That's the truth. But I would love for you to tell everyone how they can find your retreat, how they can download or order, subscribe to the magazine, or any other like links and resources that might help them kind of kickstart this leadership and entrepreneurial journey of theirs.
Well, thanks. I would love to share that. First off, we've got the retreat that's at the forefront of my mind coming up in November. It's the 12th and 13th. It's a Thursday and a Friday, all day, starting at 10. And we've got some fabulous speakers all about yourself, who you are, how do you know what your strengths are, how to use those in leadership, and the confidence and the courage, all of those things. We're going to be talking about that. How to get customers, what it's like to be a woman in business. So that's what we're going to be doing in November. And you can go to DeW.Life There's a website, you can sign up. If you are struggling financially, give me a call and I'll see if I can help you with that. Because I really want women to be able to come. And I think some women are struggling through COVID. And so we're trying to make it affordable for everyone to come. So there's that. And then the DeW magazine, just sign up for our newsletter, because every issue comes with some great insight, input, stories from women that have been where you are and are going to great places and how they got there. So, where they were, where they are, and where they're going. So that's DeW.Life. That's our website. And they can sign up for the free newsletter or get the, and that comes with a digital, or get the hard copy. We still print. I like a yummy print to go to the beach. And I know you're in Charleston, and I love that beach. So in the bathtub or the beach, so that you can read that. But either way, we'd love you to join us, because it's a movement to raise all women up, and together we can do it. We can do it together, and then connect you with all these amazing women in every career path. That's the goal. Every career path in dentistry is valuable. And I mean, from the big companies to the dental offices to the smaller companies, to any avenue there in dentistry, that we are there for you. And so that's how you can reach out to me. And, I'm on Facebook. That's the nice thing, is Messenger and all that, and Dental Entrepreneur. If you're a young dentist out there and you're looking to know more about the business, DentalEntrepreneur.com. The other thing is, I really want to publish everybody. So if you have a story to tell and you want to tell it, and you want to get started on the speaking and the consulting and in your own business, and you want to get some publicity, we'll publish you. And you just have to reach out to us, and we ask you to share us with others. And again, this is our journey. And we're going to go far, Michelle. We're going to take everybody with us. We're going to grab their arms, and we're going to push everybody up. You're at the perfect age now. You're so beautiful and young and smart, and you're growing your business. I just can't wait to follow your career as you continue to grow and share and really impact the dental profession and really the world, because people, we are so important. The mouth is so important. Everybody knows that's in dentistry. So I think we have to keep sharing that with everybody out there in the world, so they know it too.
Love it. And thank you so much. And I honestly, I think the networking has been everything for me. And I'm just somebody who was kind of this introvert extrovert. Like I do love being gregarious and being out there, but also like kind of awkward and don't know when to shut up sometimes, which if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard that a few times. But I think, practice makes perfect, and you can't figure it out until you go out there and get kind of uncomfortable, and growth comes from the ickiness. Even though I hate the ickiness, I don't love it. You got to get into it, and you got to embrace it, because that's how you figure it out.
Well, you're meant for what you're doing, Michelle. When you have that little thing in your heart and you know it, you're meant for it, and you're such a learner, and that's what makes you so special. You can't get enough. You are a true expert. And when you're an expert at something, you actually can deliver it very well. And so you just have to trust that. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to have our good days and our bad days. But I mean, who doesn't love Michelle Strange? It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know what, that if they don't, that's their thing. They got a little bit of a problem. You're just going to grow, and you've given so many women the platform to be on your podcast and to recognize them and connect them with the world, because you've got so many followers. Just that alone, you and Andrew starting this, and then just the work that you do beyond that, all your little plates that you're spinning.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And it's truly, I wish I had more time and more ability to put more people out there into the world. 52 weeks, 52 podcasts, and already like this is a labor of love some days.
It shows. Keep doing you. You're just doing great.
Thanks. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first series, and this, I don't even know what to title it exactly, like leadership, entrepreneurialism, marketing, whatever we're calling it. But it, each episode takes kind of its own personality. So I appreciate that. And I hope everyone's gathering some kind of pearls. I have no doubt that you are. But anywho, Andrew, we should tell all of our listeners to definitely follow us on the social medias, the Facebook, Instagram, and please head over to our website at taleof2hygienist.com and subscribe to our newsletter, because we have giveaways. We have tons of information there. We started this podcast by talking about how we're almost 250 episodes into this, and, what will 2021 be? But also we have like resources galore on our website. So we are definitely more than a podcast. There's so many videos and Science Sunday, and we just have so much on there now. So please go check that out and use all those resources. And there's a search button. And if you haven't already found that search button, you might love it, because you could type in saliva or something, and all the episodes should pop up, or content that we have on there. But thanks for listening. And if you do have any questions or comments, you can send them to Andrew at tale2hygienist.com.
Suck. Whatever. Or actually, let's do Michelle at tale2hygienist.com.
Gross. I don't need any more emails in my life. Please. No, it's fine. I would love to. If you have something to say, we do really, that's what charges us up. That's what fuels our fire to keep going, because as we've said many times on this is a labor of love. Like, this is something that I can't believe has grown at the rate that it has grown. And sometimes it's hard, and it's the listeners' feedback that really kind of goes, oh, like, yeah, of course we're going to keep doing this. Yeah. Like, you need us and we want to bring this to you. So keep doing that. Anywho, is that all?
That's it.
All right. Well, we hope you have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.